Hi, I'm here at IBC 2023 for Simplestream Beyond the Stream. We're going to be in conversation with Evan Shapīro. He's one of the main speakers at the event here today, and here's what he had to say. Hi, Evan.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks so much for meeting me today.
Sure.
We're coming here live from IBC 23 for us at Simplestream. How's your show been so far?
Really good. Really interesting. This is my first IBC, so I'm not sure I knew exactly what to expect, but I've been really, I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised. I've had a great time.
Excellent. That's perfect. And in terms of the conversations you've been having here, what do you think everyone's been talking about the most? Bringing up.
Well, it's interesting because I was fortunate enough to give a speech at the beginning of the first day, and I made a comparison between. I basically said that the industry had cancer, and so I've gotten a lot of feedback on that, and it's been, I think there is this. It's interesting. We're at the start of a new era, and I think that's where most of the conversation is happening. And so you have kind of the legacy folks from broadcasting grappling with entering a new era that they may or may not be prepared for, and then you have the streamers who are supposed to be native to this new era, also grappling with business models and the fundamental economics underpinning this new era. Because I don't know, while the streamers seem to have some sort of an advantage, I don't know that they necessarily have the model to carry that advantage forward. And so, I tried to light a fire at the beginning of the day yesterday, and it seems that it's catching to a certain extent. Not that that's my fire to start, but to a certain extent, this is a conversation that the entire ecosystem has been having all year, and it feels like IBC, because of, I think, its position in the calendar. So it's the beginning of the fall, almost the beginning of the fourth quarter, which means we're almost in next year. And then secondarily, the fact that it is Amsterdam, so it's so central and attracts this great collision of people from all over the world. I think we're just really having that larger conversation that the entire ecosystem is having here in real time with each other. Most of us really drunk and high. So it's a really interesting ecosystem. I love this town and the energy here. I think there was as much as last year, it definitely was coming back. This feels like back. From a we're going to gather, we're going to have these conversations in real time. Well, so that was a very long answer to you.
No, that's great. I mean, on that last part, for professional purposes, I'm not going to say whether I was drunk or high at all yet.
Okay, but, I have pictures.
The night. Perfect. And on your talk yesterday, you talked about tech Death Stars, obviously. And do you think that tech overtaking Hollywood essentially is going to be a good thing?
Well, it's already overtaken Hollywood. That's I think that was the message of my speech, and I think it's kind of one of the things that is important for the industry to realize if it's going to get out of the last era, which it seems stuck in, and into the current era, which we need to move forward on, is that the big tech Death Stars already own it. There are two companies that control 100% of access to all mobile customers on the face of the earth. Two. And the big tech Death Stars are trying to recreate that duopoly in connected televisions. Google's the fastest growing operating system on the face of the earth. Fire, Amazon wants to expand. So, I think you have to understand that it already exists, that consumers around the world already adjust their own content bundle, their own lifestyle bundle in their system settings with swipes of their thumbs. And the big tech Death Stars are now offering media as a part of their terms of service. So start that it's already happened. That's where we are. Now what? And I don't think it's good or bad. I think there's this misperception that we haven't had these oligopolies at every period of media. There's always been 3 to 7 companies who control 90 to 100% of voice in media around the world. We just keep switching who the oligarchs are.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think it's agnostic, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of like saying, do you think it's good or bad that the sun's going to come up tomorrow? It's coming up. So get ready, right?
Yeah.
And I think I think what most of the publishers need to understand is, to a certain extent, the big tech, the new era isn't going to run on tech alone. It needs IP. If that's the kind of nervous system tech, the blood that pumps through the system is IP, and content will still wear the crown. But you have to understand that the local publishers do have leverage. They can't, Google can't operate its operating system in Germany without ZDF and ARD. They can't go to Spain without working with the local public service media there. So it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And if you working out the balance of power between you and the big tech Death Star that you have to work with and compete with simultaneously, those are the rules of the new road. And it's okay if you don't like it, but then just don't get behind the wheel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the biggest things they've been talking about as well recently has been AI. People are saying it's predicted to revolutionize things like the ad sector. But what's your take on the future of the OTT industry in light of that?
Well, again, I think you have to recognize that it's already taken over the ad sector. Google and YouTube, the largest ad platform on the face of the earth, is entirely run by machine learning, AI, black boxes, and it is a performance media machine, and that's why it does so well in advertising. I think somewhere around 40 to 50% of all video ads on Facebook are already made from Gen AI. So again, you have to kind of like recognize that the revolution has already happened. We're already post-revolution. You just have to kind of catch up to it. Then you look at Gen AI and what it's going to do to, let's say, OTT and streaming. I think, our discovery sucks. If you go into a crowded room and you say, how many of you log on to your different pay streaming services, search for something to watch, find nothing, and give up? A lot of people raise their hands. So if we can kind of integrate AI more deeply, and Gen AI, like, create my playlist for me on all, knowing what you know about me. Here's the things I've watched in the last 6 months. Find me the content. There's a terrific, I think, opportunity for young creators to be able to produce much more expensive looking content. So that there's a democratization of content coming from Gen AI as well. But I think what I'm most excited by is the ability to make the system better by taking out the kind of detailed manual labor that just shouldn't be in the streaming system to begin with, and that can be replaced by machines, and make the interaction, discovery, the whole interface of our entertainment ecosystem better for the end user.
Yeah, that's an excellent point there as well. I mean, in terms of like going back to solo content creators, I think it's interesting that we're at a point now in the industry where you've got things like the actors and writers strikes happening because obviously streaming is so popular now, and they haven't got that money that they would normally get from, box office, essentially, because things are just being released on streaming platforms. So it's kind of a difficult period where you're almost seeing barriers breaking down between people and content, where people are actually just going directly to the artist behind it. And then that's taking out all of those middlemen, which are obviously taking their cut of things as well. So do you think in the future we're going to see a lot more sort of solo content creators creating things that, are as good, if not better, than what a lot of Hollywood can produce?
Yeah, and again, I'm sorry to keep beating the same refrain, but we're already there. Mr. Beast is the most popular talent on Earth for people between the ages of 12 and 17, right? He's worth $1.5 billion. There's a huge swath of the population of the planet Earth that sees social video as premium content already, right? YouTube is the number one channel on TV. It's the number one video platform. We know that, right? So 25% of all mobile usage on the planet Earth comes from YouTube, just YouTube. 50% is video. 25 is just YouTube. But it's also the number one channel on connected televisions. So it's become a premium television channel. And by the way, Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation A, they all see it as co-equal with Disney Plus and Netflix. What's important to realize is that the advertising agencies also see it as co-equal. They see creator economy, they see creator-led content as co-equal to premium content, because it's just as effective for selling their products. And so we are at a point where what I call the community economy, a lot of people call the creator economy, is already on equal footing as far as time spent and power. And I think it's really important for the artist to understand that most of the value you're going to unlock for yourself is going to come from creating an indelible, unbreakable relationship with your community. And even if you get greenlit by Netflix, you should never abandon that, because that's your power. Look at Reese Witherspoon and her $1 billion sale of her company. That's because she has a direct relationship with a bunch of book-loving nerds around the world, and she can create a bestseller and then turn it into a movie, and she has this power. But it all stems from her direct relationship with her community. This is an important lesson for every publisher. So yes, I think you're going to see a tremendous amount more direct to consumer through the community economy. And I think that publishers should lean into that just as heavily as artists do.
Yeah. And I'm just going to take us off on a bit of a tangent now. So I want you to
Like
imagine...
I didn't just then.
But I want you to imagine now, Evan, that the building's actually just caught fire. And ignoring the fact that a lot of the tech we've got is cloud-based, bit of a caveat, but what technology would you save out of these following choices? So the first is Avod and Fast as monetization models, or SVOD.
Between those two?
Yeah, so Avod and Fast or SVOD.
Yeah, I think that's I'm going to say neither. I think that's like a Solomon's choice. To think that those two things they're not different. They are the same. So Netflix now has ads. Why is that not Avod? Right? Hulu had 60% of their users have ads, have the ad tier, right? Not the ad-free tier. And they're a linear product. YouTube TV and YouTube Premium and YouTube Kids kind of all coexist inside the same ecosystem. So that would be like that would be like taking a pair of Siamese twins and asking me to cut them in half. And I don't think that that's fair. I think it would cause a lot of bloodshed, and I think I think it's really important for the industry to understand that if you're investing all of your hopes and dreams in Fast right now, you're f***ing yourself, because if to separate them from the premium end of it and not create a connective tissue, I talk to Pluto and Paramount about this all the time. Why are they not the same product, Paramount Plus and Pluto? Although I would see Amazon and the leap that Jury Duty made between Prime and Freevee as a prediction of what's coming. We are reinventing the pay TV ecosystem. Remember, for a long time, the pay TV ecosystem consisted in the United States, and it does still in much of the world, as the free channels wound in with the pay channels, many of which have ads on them. So, no, I'm not going to separate them.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Hybrid's probably the way we're going to go. More choices for everyone, and however they want to access the content.
Yeah, and I think what we need to move. So premium subscription video is suffering from a churn existential crisis. Serial churning is now the new channel changing. Again, I ask crowds this all the time. Raise your hand if you've signed up for a service, watched the out of something, and then canceled before the next billing cycle. Right. You're the problem. And so why not create an ecosystem where you sign up and you never cancel, but you only pay for what you watch? So you're never outside the ecosystem. So I do think we have to reinvent the continuum between free and paid, because the consumer wants the elegant, I don't want to notice the change. I just want to go from one to the other. And we keep putting up these garden walls between each one of these experiences at our own peril.
Yeah, no, agreed on that. And then I've got another one for you here, which is on-demand or live content.
I think it's not a binary choice. We've seen in the rise of Fast that people actually like linear. It wasn't linear that they didn't like in the pay TV bundle. It wasn't the bundle that they didn't like. It was the fact that we were being overcharged for it. That was the problem. And so, and especially you're seeing, if you look at Pluto now and you look at Roku now and you look at more and Tubi especially, they are commingling them. So if you go into the EPG of any of these fast services and then you click on a show, most times you'll go to an on-demand reservoir where you can watch a binge if you'd like. And so the consumer wants no barrier between those two experiences. Again, it's kind of like saying, well, the right half of your face is better than the left half of your face. Well, I can't pull them apart. And if I did, I'd look like the Phantom of the Opera. So, the consumer wants those wound together. And that's why I think you can't pull them apart.
Yeah, no. I mean, I did do these as binary choices, but it might have been on purpose. And then my final one is AI or blockchain.
I would say AI would be the thing that I would say there, only because, look, I think I've had some interesting conversations with folks here about their use of blockchain. Blockchain was such a fad last year, and I think it kind of burned out brightly in our community's conversation loop, but it's still being utilized in really innovative ways around the world. So I don't think it's going away, and I wouldn't. But I think AI is substantially more wound into our current ecosystem and will continue to be important on a moving forward basis. And so, whether it's programmatic advertising or machine learning, performance marketing, or Unreal Engine as a kind of set, as a backdrop, it's already so tightly wound inside the entire continuum, and it's only going to get more pervasive. I just think, for my own financial well-being, I'd rather bet on the thing that I know is being utilized right now. So.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's the safer choice there. There's still a lot of uncertainty around blockchain and crypto in general, especially with like recent markets. Like even in the tech sector, we've seen a lot of issues over the past year. Luckily, we're still here, our company, right. So that's how we're doing this interview. But we've actually done some recent research as well in our company, which I've provided you as well in that goodie bag. We've actually found that people would be comfortable with having personalized ads served to them, but contradictory to that, they're actually not willing to give their permission to share personal data, like on an opt-in for an app, for example. So do you think that'll change in the future? Do you think it's an education issue?
That's a really good question, and I actually did a study with some professors from NYU and Syracuse that we're going to release in a few weeks. It's the largest survey of Americans around data privacy and ethics, and we found that most 2/3 of consumers don't understand when their data is being collected, who's collecting it, what it's being used for. They just either say I don't know, or they give the wrong answer. And so, I think it's a major education issue. They also say, this is kind of to complete your contradiction inside the brains of these consumers. They say, protecting my data is my responsibility. And then they also say, I'm not willing to do anything to protect it. So it's interesting. I think permission marketing, the fact that I am going to be more explicit about asking you for access to your privacy, but I'm going to give you something in exchange for it, whether it's access to content or money. I do think that in a cookieless society, which I guess we're headed to, although it keeps getting kicked down the road, I do think you'll see much more permission marketing. Like the gateway will ask you to sign on and tell you what your privacy is going to be, or your data is going to be used for. So I think we still have that contradiction inside the brains of the consumer, because most consumers do not understand what it means when you ask them about personalized ads and privacy and all those kinds of things. Unfortunately, I also think we have a set of regulators around the planet who have no idea how any of this tech works, and so we need regulation. I don't know how forthcoming it's going to be. So to me, doing education at the elementary school level, at the high school level, at the collegiate level, and then once you get into the workforce at the kind of entry level there, and then grandmas and grandpas should also be being taught actively about how their privacy is being collected and what's being done to it.
No, definitely. It's a difficult thing to understand, because obviously, at least my generation as well, your generation, we've grown up with so many changes to how we're being marketed to and what's available. Even technology itself has changed like an unfathomable amount since, I was born, you were born. So I think all of those changes just equate to the fact that there's a lot to be done in terms of education, like you say. But
I think you just called me old twice. But...
I promise I didn't. But no, I think that's pretty much everything. Evan, thank you so much for your time today.
It's my pleasure.
And Thanks so much. You have a great show.
Yeah, you too.
Well, that was us in conversation with Evan Shapīro here at IBC 2023. Content aggregation, consolidation, and monetization, they've all been themes that he discussed with us, and I think he certainly knows a thing or two about where the industry is going to go in the future. If you've enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Stream, you can subscribe to it on your favorite platform. And if you've also enjoyed this type of content, then you can subscribe to our Unboxed newsletter, which is released bi-weekly.